Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini episode, I have a couple of bizarre stories to tell you today, folks. One, an encounter with a possible Jinn. Another, an encounter with the black-eyed kids, folks. Let's get into the first article and read about My Mother's Voice. A childhood encounter with a Jinn in the hallway. Let's read what this woman experienced when she was a kid and what she thinks was a Jinn. When I was a child, our grandparents' old house became the stage for eerie encounters, shadowy figures in the hallway, footsteps on the roof, and a voice that called my name from the darkness. But the night I saw my mother sleep while another version of her called to me from the bathroom remains a mystery that still chills me to this day. That's quite the opening, isn't it, folks? Let's hear the actual account now. When I was younger, we lived in my grandparents' old house after they had built a new one and moved out. The house always felt creepy. There was a long hallway with no windows that led from the kitchen to the end where the pink bathroom was located. That bathroom served as the kids' bathroom, and I always hated it. In the living room, there were many times when I could watch a glimpse of someone standing at the door to the hallway out of the corner of my eye. Sometimes something would pass through and block the light in the hallway. At night, we often heard running sounds on the roof. Our roofs were flat, and there was a stairway leading to the roof from inside the house. It sounded like something was playing up there, back and forth. However, the creepiest occurrences were when we would see our mother. She could be seen in the hallway, either walking to her room or to the kitchen, or she would come out to our room and say something at the door in the same hallway before turning and walking into her room. When we followed her into the room, she wouldn't be there. She would either be in another part of the house or not at home at all. One night, I was asleep on the top bunk of our bunk bed. When my two sisters and I slept in the same room, I remember waking up late at night to the sound of my mother calling me. The voice echoed, making it sound like it came from the bathroom. That was between our room and my parents' room. I got up, put my feet on the ladder, and was about to climb down when I looked down at the bottom bunk, a queen-sized bed, and saw my mother sleep with my sisters. She usually read to us every night and must have fallen asleep. Ooh, now that's incredibly frightening, folks. Let's read on. As I stared at her, I heard my mother calling me again. I froze, unable to move or speak, as my mind tried to make sense of the situation. I was only about 8 or 9 years old. The voice sounded a bit impatient or even angry. I was frightened, and all I could do was climb back into bed and pull the covers over me, waiting for the voice to stop calling me. I think it called my name twice more before it finally stopped. I don't even remember falling asleep. That experience remains one of the scariest memories I have from that house, and I truly hated it. We don't believe in ghosts. Instead, we believe in Jinn, which are entities that can inhabit older areas, abandoned places, and deserts. In our case, we were likely living in an area that had once been desert, meaning we could have been building on land where they once lived. Some Jinn are good, while others are not, but we've been taught to avoid interacting with them and to respect their boundaries. So, did A actually hear the voice of a Jinn pretending to be her mother? And what would have happened to A if she basically went and answered that voice, folks? What if it could have led to maybe an abduction, perhaps? And that thought truly is terrifying, isn't it, folks? So whatever happened here, I would say, is very, very disturbing, if only for the fact that it involved a child. But why did this entity only seemingly target A here? Were there times basically when, A's other sisters could have been called away? I mean, they did see what looked like their mother entering a room, but when they entered, she was gone. So maybe. Either way, a truly terrifying story, folks. And that's just one. The next one is maybe even more terrifying, folks. So let's read this black-eyed kid encounter, which is truly out there, folks. It's titled, Black-Eyed Kids Encounter Bloodstains, Vanishing Girls, and a Haunting Mystery in Sydney, Australia. Let's get into this account and read what this man lived through, folks. Let's read the opening now. In the heart of Sydney, a man awoke to a relentless knocking, only to find 2 blood-stained girls pleading for help. But what he saw inside would defy all reason. Were these truly children in need, or something far darker tied to the terrifying legend of the Black-Eyed Kids? Now that's an opening, folks. Let's read the actual account now. I live near Sydney, Australia, in a busy part of town. One afternoon, I was asleep since I work nights, and there was a persistent knocking at the front door. I had to walk down the stairs to answer it. I couldn't ignore it, since they kept knocking. When I looked through the peephole, I saw two girls. I couldn't see their faces clearly, so I asked what they wanted. One of them said, "We're hurt. Let us in. We're hurt." That's horrifying, folks, and basically is very, very much on record for all black-eyed kids encounters. But this story takes a distinct turn, and it's, wow, is it different. Not only were these supposed black-eyed children supposedly covered in blood, folks, but what happened next is truly frightening and of note. So let's read on now. I noticed there was blood on their hands. Feeling uneasy, I opened the door and they hurried inside. Still groggy from sleep, I saw that there was blood on their clothes and hands. I asked them where their parents were, and they replied, "Far away." I told them I would call an ambulance and turned to get my phone. Just then, the girl with brown hair grabbed my arm with surprising strength and urged me not to go. This took me aback. When I looked at her face, I noticed her eyes were completely black. This freaked me out, and I pulled away from her grip a bit too forcefully as I rushed to grab my phone, which was in the next room. All of this happened in under a minute, and I was still in shock. When I returned, the girls had vanished. I searched the house, but found nothing. I ran out the front door, down the stairs, to look down the street, but they were gone. I thought I must be stuck in a dream until I reached my steps and saw bloodstains on my front door, and then noticed blood on my arm that wasn't mine. As I said, folks, this is truly unique here, folks. Usually, people just either let the kids stay outside because they're too scared of them, or they let them in and they literally fall unconscious. But here, folks, this guy went inside with the kids and they freaked him out and they vanished. But they left a physical trace behind, folks. I would love to know if this witness gathered any of this blood and maybe had it analyzed. Either way, folks, let's continue with this article and read the rest of it because it's truly interesting what happens next. When my wife got home, I told her about the incident, and she showed me information about black-eyed children on the internet. I had never heard of them before. I found a few bruises on my arm where the girl had grabbed me, and they lasted for a few days. What did M encounter here, folks? It sounds like he literally basically saw these blood-stained girls, and the blood on them seems to have been a lure to have him let them in. Now, does this show that the black-eyed kids are changing their methods here, folks? I mean, it sounds like the blood was basically, as I said, a way to get them inside. But once they were inside, folks, all they really did was basically just freak the man out, like in every other black-eyed kid story that we've read about before, folks. So, I don't understand. I mean, do you think something would have happened if the man had stayed in the room after that girl had grabbed his arm and said, "Don't go"? Do you think something terrible would have happened? Would he have been abducted, or would he have died? I don't know, folks, because usually at that point, folks, the people who let the children in just fall unconscious after seeing the kids' eyes. Now, we have to ask why. Why do this? And is there any merit to it at all, folks? The one thing I can think about, folks, is that this was all in preparation for an abduction. This man's abduction, folks, but that didn't happen. Unless the man has missing time, which I doubt, folks. The other unique thing, folks, is that this seems to have happened in the middle of the day, at least the afternoon, because he says they woke up. But then again, folks, if that's true, why didn't anyone else notice these kids? I mean, for God's sakes, it was in the middle of the day, these kids were covered in blood, and they clearly left this stuff and it was solid, because this man went back to his porch and saw it there on it. As I said, folks, I hope he collected this stuff, and I have other things to say as well, folks, because I would love to have this stuff analyzed. Was it actual human blood? Because I would love to know if they could track the person whose blood this belonged to. Maybe it came from a blood bank or something, because it sounds to me like these kids weren't actually covered in their own blood, folks, but that's just me. Either way, a truly interesting account, folks. But either way, we're now at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics That Are Bad For You. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions of the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Hit the part of the bell. That'll give you all future notifications. And please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks. I'll see you all again soon.